I would like to tell you a story. One time in my life, I grew up near a beach house in Naples, Florida. I lived there when I was about 24, but now I'm 29. It's a small town. The closest deaf person is an hour away. I was the only deaf person in a small town where everybody was hearing. I didn't care. I was looking for something new. During that time, there was volleyball players who lived there. They were training. So they would go play on the beach, they'd go play indoors. And I'm a very good volleyball player. So we would play every day and every week. We would play one time after a night, my friend and I were just chatting on the beach. And he asked me a question. I have never been heard this question before. He says, "Do you wish that you could hear?" And I was wondering why he asked me that question, but I realized as we were sitting there that we could see the waves and he could hear them. And I couldn't hear him. My world was silence. There were some people playing volleyball on the side of us on the beach. On the other side of us, there was a baby crying. And behind us, there was cars that were just passing, making a lot of noises. I looked at him and I answered really quickly. I said, "Nope. I have never wished that I could hear. Never. Because I love who I am." And you ask, how do I love myself as a deaf man? Well, first, that's all I know. Growing up, I was deaf. That's the only perspective I have on life. There are very different perspectives than what you guys have as hearing people. And I cherish this. It is something special to me in my culture, all my experiences. So I've accepted who I am. Let me give you an example. If I were to go into a job interview with 4 people that were hearing, in the back of my head, I wish that I could hear, I wish I could talk. I wish I could be equal with everybody and have that interview. Think that would be a good influence? Think that would be good? No, because in the back of my head, I'm hoping that it would work and then it wouldn't work. So with different perspectives, if I have different assets, I know that I have a lot to give to them, to that company. And that will make a huge difference because I'll be able to have more access. There'll be more benefit to be able to have all these different things to support the company. So a different mindset. First, I love myself. I have access for this. You need to realize that maybe you don't realize. I have 2 brothers that are deaf. My parents are deaf as well. My grandparents are deaf, and even my great-grandparents are deaf as well. I'm the 4th generation of a huge family, of a huge deaf family, of 4 generations. So when I was born to my deaf parents, they knew how to raise me and to the best of their ability, to their knowledge. And one day, my first day I was born, I had access to education, love, and language. My life was perfect. The same with you guys with boring hearing to hearing parents. It's the same thing with mine, except for we were deaf. It was like the perfect utopia. So I was going to a deaf school where everybody was deaf. My teacher was deaf. We had a deaf president. Again, my life was perfect for me to grow in this situation. Growing up, I had no problems. Being in a deaf world was perfect for me. Growing up, I had my mom, she wanted me to go to a hearing school. I thought, Mom, you're crazy. Going to a hearing school? I want to stay at my deaf school. My mom, she says she wants to learn more about the hearing students and what they learn, what they're taught about. And I said, fine, okay. So 2 weeks later, I'm at the school and I'm like, Mom, I want to quit. And she says, no, do not quit. Stay in that school. Continue. And so I was in there for 1 year and I was the only deaf student in that school. I learned so much. I was so patient because the life of communicating access was different from my hearing friends, where they learned. I was the only one there playing volleyball, basketball. I was set up with it. I wanted to go back to the deaf school. That was my home, my community. With different organizations, or there are many different sports. So I realized I wanted to go home. So when I finished high school, I went to Gallaudet University, the first deaf university in DC. So when I went there, I studied math. I have the math degree. I wanted to teach math because there was a lot of math students, math teachers, and they sucked. I wanted to be a good math teacher. I wanted to be a deaf math teacher for the deaf students. So I was getting ready to graduate. I was a little nervous. All of the decisions I had to make. I feel like, okay, I need to leave. So I decided to travel the world to 43 countries. I continued to travel and I met so many people. And this guy asked me, how do you travel alone being a deaf man? And I looked at him and I said, let me tell you. It's easy for you to understand as a hearing person. You have access to the whole world. It's lucky for you. I was standing here with the American man. He was asking questions. Where do you receive all these things? How do you do this? And he was trying to communicate in English, and we were trying to communicate. But he's like, you guys have a barrier. You don't know how to communicate. And this guy missed the point. I got out a piece of paper and I started writing, and we communicated back and forth. In this situation, I did not have the disability, but he did. And that story, as a world, when I was traveling, I met so many people, and interacting was fine. Other things I want to continue about as traveling is I recognized who I am. And I met deaf people. Every time I visited the Deaf Institute, the deaf school, I thought a lot of people don't have education. The hearing people have the same education as me. And I desired to be able to have that for everybody else. I thought often, why am I lucky as a deaf person? So I went back to America. I learned right now there's 67 people in the country. Only 2% of that have access to education for a degree. That is a lot. Deaf people, they don't have access to education. So over here, 65% of hearing people can communicate with their children, with their kids. Again, their children, they can't receive those degrees. So looking at both of these, the education and receiving degrees, I realized that a lot of deaf kids don't have this. Only 10% of children sign from deaf parents. And that's me. I feel like I am very lucky to have the access to education, language, and love. To be successful. I need to understand that these people don't have that either. It's my goal in life to be able to have everybody have that. The deaf organization here in America introduced to the state, it says all deaf children need to have access to degrees before age 5. I wanted to point that out for a good foundation. They're ready to learn, they're ready to have a successful life. All deaf children should have a future and have successful lives just like me. So with that being said, I hope all of you will become allies in this. We need more people to become knowledgeable about this. Before I leave, I want to teach you a little bit of sign, okay? First, sign, love, and then yourself. So go ahead, love yourself. Awesome. I gave you guys an A+. Good job. Thank you.